Hey team, welcome to episode number 35 of the Ladies Best Life podcast. I hope you're feeling awesome today. So, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that I see people make when it comes to their fat loss/weight loss journey. Now, the reason why I'm showing this to you is because I believe that so many people go about it the wrong way, hence why obesity is an epidemic. We are in the worst shape ever when it comes to overweight, obese, and morbidly obese. And actually, it's killing more people than I think many people would actually ever comprehend. So, mistake number 1 is people have an all or nothing mentality. So, are you like that? Do you feel like you are on it one day and then you're off it the next? Or you're like, I'm going to start on Monday. Maybe you say to yourself, right, from the 1st of June, this is the day I'm going to start my new fitness journey and I'm going to be really good for the next 30 days. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that you would potentially say? Because what we often see is people will be bad on some days and they'll be good on some days, but they're never consistently okay. We want to always strive to be consistently great rather than occasionally fucking awesome, okay? Or consistently good even is better than occasionally great, okay? So we really want to go down the route of how can we create consistency? And that isn't about the all or nothing kind of realm, if you like. We really want to focus on how can I make some changes so that in 1 year time, I feel so much better, rather than thinking about I'm going to give up absolutely everything that I love now, and then within 3 days time I'm going to go back down to the root of eating all the things I love, drinking all the things I love, and not moving my body, and then actually thinking that I'm a failure. So I want you just to stop and ask yourself for a moment, how can I be less all or nothing? How can I do this in a more balanced and sustainable way? Ask yourself that question, because there is a way to do this. This will actually be answered later on down the line, but it's about committing to the long-term games, not thinking about being, inverted commas, good for a week and then letting it all slip because you weigh yourself on Saturday and you haven't lost a pound. All or nothing mentality in every area of life will be the thing that bites you on the ass. We need to have a little bit of balance, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of fun, a little bit of what we fancy in order to make this sustainable. So that's the first biggest mistake that I see, all or nothing mentality. The second one is people go into way too big of a deficit. So they literally put themselves on 1,200 calories a day. They think that that's going to be what it takes in order to get them to where they want to get to. But what happens after a few days is they're fucking starving. They're bored of eating chicken, rice, and broccoli or whatever it could be. And they now just want a bit of flavor. They now just want maybe a glass of wine on a Wednesday night. So if you're going to be in too much of a deficit, how long do you genuinely think that you would last for? Probably a week, probably 5 days. So how can we manipulate these numbers more so that you can do this for longer? What number is it going to need? If you're going to go down the numbers route, what number is it going to take for you to stay on this for a month? Rather than a week, how can we do a month? Or rather than a week, how can we do 2 weeks? What number are you going to have to hit? If you're a calories girl, what number? Ask yourself that question. Are you ravenous? Do you really miss your Wednesday night glass of wine and Friday night takeaway? Because there is only going to be so long that you will be able to sustain that for before you then just go, fuck it. And literally probably 1,200 calories in 5 minutes. So I wanted to think about that. Mistake number 2 is way too low of a deficit, and therefore people get this just absolute kind of ravenous temptation to then go, fuck it. They go on the train to ice cream town, and that's it. They're like, I'm a failure, I can't do this. Mistake number 3, people over exercise. And people actually think that exercise is the answer to their fat loss when it's not. How many of you believe that you need to exercise more in order to lose weight? How many? How many of you have said, I need to go and run off the burger I had last night? Have you ever said, I need to go get my steps in so that I can eat the dessert this weekend? And you might not have said it in that exact way, but you could be saying it in a roundabout way that I've got to go and burn off 600 calories on my Apple Watch in order to kind of counteract the Domino's pizza I had last night. Exercise is not the answer. Exercise is the answer for mental health, for strength, for performance, for sanity, for cardio health. But exercise is not really the way that we need to go if we're looking at losing weight. We need to be looking at what's coming in, because often we consume, so we eat way too much and we don't move enough, but we can't really move enough to counteract what we're eating. So we need to look at just making slight reductions on what we're consuming rather than thinking about moving more. And just a little side note on that. The number of calories that your watch says you've burnt is way out. It's never anywhere near that. So we need to look at how much am I eating? How much am I moving, but not really focusing on that as the answer of fat loss, but just in a healthy way for me? How much do I actually want to move? And if I didn't look at the calories on my watch, what would I be doing? Would I be training differently? Start thinking about things in a different way, because these calories that it says that you've burnt are way out. They're not the answer. It's usually about 50% of what it says that you've actually burned. So say if you've done a 600 calorie combat class, it's probably more like 300. But then if you're giving yourself the permission to eat that, then you're probably well over. So we need to be very mindful of that. Exercise is not the answer for losing body fat. We need to start looking at what's coming into the body rather than what's going out. The fourth one is people have finite goals. I want to lose 2 stone for holiday. I want to be a size 10. I want to lose 5 pounds by Monday or whatever it could be. These are finite goals. These are goals that, or it could be even down the route of, I want to run a 29-minute 5K. Once you get there, then what? And this is what we do really well inside the coaching club. We help you to come up with a vision. We help you to come up with something that until the day you die, you are committed to this different lifestyle, to this healthier way of life. You know, it could be maybe not to the day you die, but looking a bit more longer term. Maybe your children are 3 and 4 right now, and you are committed to walking them down the aisle, or to being there and feeling incredible for when they have children and you've got grandchildren. How can we expand this a little bit more? Because when you play finite games, you're very volatile. And actually, when you get there, you're often like, is that it? You see so many Olympic athletes who, when they win gold, they then go into depression because they're like, what now? What is my purpose? So what can be your infinite purpose? What can be the thing that when you're lay on your deathbed, you're like, thank God I did that. Thank God I took the plunge and actually did that. I am so proud of myself because that kept me going. And sure, this is going to be a very different way of you thinking, because society says you've got to be a certain size to be successful. You need to really push yourself. You need to make sure you're working hard. All of these different things that society says is very finite. So if we can expand it, even if we can make a commitment so in June next year, how do I want to feel? How do I want to look? That's a year long rather than this kind of 90-day thing that a lot of people do at the minute. So how can we look into that a little bit more? Because when we have the infinite purpose, we do what it takes. And it's not all about the volatile games of how much you weigh or even how you look. It's about how you feel. And the final mistake that I see is people are too weight focused. So are you weight focused? Are you obsessed with being under 80 kilograms? Are you obsessed with not being any heavier than 10 stone 6? And the moment you are, that's it, you don't eat. Because our weight fluctuates for so many reasons, guys. It's not all about body fat. And actually our maintenance, so the set point at which we can maintain, fluctuates either way by about 3 to 5 kilograms. Okay. So if you're beating yourself up for being a couple of pounds heavier, it could just be a bit of water retention. You might not have been to the toilet yet. For me, so currently recording this, I'm going through my PMS phase of my cycle. I am so fluffy. I just feel, my body doesn't feel toned at all. But I know that is happening for me, and that is happening for a reason. You know, my body is doing so many amazing things, and this is a byproduct of that. If I was to judge myself on how I looked now and how I felt, which isn't good at all, I would probably make some really silly decisions and start cutting my food down at a time when my body probably needs it more. Don't forget, when we are in PMS and period, we do need to be looking at increasing the calories 100 to 300 per day. Okay. And if we can, we want to try and do that through nourishing food, but sometimes all you want is chocolate. So if we're just looking at weight, which is our relation to the ground, right, which only really applies for boxers and jockeys, doesn't really apply for general pop. And sure, I'm all with you if you want to feel a bit better in your clothes, but you can feel better in your clothes without losing a single pound. Mic drop, right? What is it going to take for you to move away from the scale victories? What is it going to take for you to realize that it doesn't matter what you weigh? There is nothing more important than how you feel, but scales don't always represent that. How can we flip the mindset perspective on this? How can we make you see things differently? How can we help you to realize that your weight is not a direct correlation of your body fat? There are so many reasons why it will change. And it's up to you to break this societal pattern, this norm that goes through society saying that just because you're bigger means that you're not worthy. That's bullshit. You are worthy as you are. And I am all for wanting to feel good in your jeans or wanting to feel a little bit firmer. I'm down with that, but it's not down to your weight. So that is the final mistake that I see when it comes to losing weight and fat loss, is that people put the whole effort on their weight. They stand on the scales on a Saturday morning after working hard for the last 4 weeks and they haven't lost a single pound. But look at all the other amazing benefits that come with you looking after yourself more, drinking a bit less alcohol, eating a bit less refined sugar, nourishing with great food, really good amount of fruit and vegetables, moving your body more, sleeping better, drinking less caffeine, all those wonderful things, so that you actually feel 10 times better. Your weight does not need to be the deciding factor on how good you've got it from looking after yourself more. So let me recap those 5. Number 1, the biggest mistake that I see is people have an all or nothing mentality. There's no balance, there's no mediocre, there's no kind of enjoyment in it. Therefore, they restrict too much and then they want to go down the fuck it train to ice cream town. The second point, the second mistake, people put themselves in too much of a deficit and they cannot sustain it. We need to commit to the long-term gains and really focus on just a tiny deficit. Once you've done that for about 4 weeks, then we can maybe look at tapping it down again, tiny amounts. The third mistake I see is that people use exercise as their means to lose weight, not to feel good and strong. If you're using exercise to lose weight, you are focusing on the wrong thing. It shouldn't be about exercising to lose weight. It should be about exercising to feel good and to feel strong. We need to look at the calories coming in and gradually making changes. The fourth one is people often really focus on short-term goals. So by July the 1st, I want to be a stone lighter, or I want to run 5K in under 30 minutes, or whatever. They're focusing on the next 30 days or the next 90 days. How would life be different if you managed to zoom out and do things slightly differently and have an infinite purpose when it comes to you living your best life, feeling your best, and absolutely operating to your highest possible potential? The final mistake I see is people are too focused on weight loss, just the scales. They're not focused on how their genes feel. They're not focused on how much more energy they've got. They're not focusing on all the other areas that we are massively winning. They're not focusing on that. They're just focusing on the number on those scales, which can be impacted by a number of reasons, fuck all to do with your body fat levels a lot of the time. So I always love to hear from you guys. I'm getting so many messages coming through, but saying how much you're loving the podcast. I would absolutely love you to carry on doing that, and also just to share it to your feed, whether that be on Instagram story, whether it be on your main page on Facebook or what have you, or even just send the link to a few friends. I truly believe this podcast can help women across the world to live a better life, to break free from the societal norms, and to really start feeling and operating at their best. So please message me. I would love to hear from you, and also give it a cheeky share. Have an incredible day. Speak soon.